screenshot of that recipe and take it home and make it for yourself. So we hope you will be able to learn a lot while you're here today, take advantage of screenings to figure out where you are in your health, and we hope that the information that you receive with our 3 presentations today will empower you as well with knowledge and inspiration to take control and mastery of your own health. This is a celebration of wellness. We're celebrating 3 things today, and you can see that on your welcome card. Celebrating more wholeness of mind. That's what our presentation with Dr. Bacchus is about. Family medicine for the mind. Then at 11:30, I'll be speaking on celebrating more wholeness of spirit, how relationships, healthy relationships, have the power to heal us. Or we could have also given the title, How Unhealthy or Toxic Relationships Can Kill Us. You can go both ways with that presentation, but I look forward to sharing some really exciting information with you on that. And then at 1:30 today, we're going to be celebrating more wholeness of body with Dr. Christopher Keeler. So we hope you can take advantage of whatever presentations meet your need, and maybe if you enjoy one and you figured you were only going to come for 1 or 2, you'll say, hey, I enjoyed it so much, I'll stick around and take in all 3. But we hope you're extremely blessed, and I'm going to shut up now. You came here, did not hear me. You came, or at least not yet. I'm here at 11:30 to speak. But you came here to hear Dr. Ashima Bacchus, and so give her a warm, rousing applause and welcome as she comes forward and as she shares with us today. She'll be speaking for about 45 minutes or so, but she'll have a Q&A time to answer your questions as well afterwards. We're so glad you're here.
Good morning. How are you? My name is Ashima Bacchus. I am a family medicine physician over in Houston. I work with Dr. Morella. She's also an internal medicine primary care doctor. I am from Orlando, but I went to South Carolina for about 6 years for training and recently moved back to the area. Today my topic is going to be about wellness of mind, but how we can use our healthcare screening to help our mental health. Oh no. So what my topic is how do we prioritize ourselves and care for ourselves so that we can better care for our family members, our friends, and even our pets. Questions that I like for you to ask yourself is, do you prioritize yourself when it comes to your self-care? Are you kind to yourself? Do you give yourself breaks? Do you give yourself permission to care for yourself? And how you can use the resources that we have provided to help you feel better and then know that your body's better so that your mental health is also better. So compassion fatigue. This is where we're caring for others and we're not noticing that it's starting to take a toll on ourselves. So you can feel tired, you can feel fatigued all the time. You're starting to have body aches and headaches, but not really knowing where they're coming from. You can start having frequent urinary infections or even upper respiratory infections. You start having changes in your appetite. You're either eating too much or too little. You can be sleeping too much or too little and not feeling rested. You can also have like high blood pressure all of a sudden when you're normally controlled and nothing's changed in your diet. You also have feelings of guilt, doubt, and dread. You can doubt yourself about, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? And then also your self-care. We have lack of self-care when we are burned out with our compassion. So that is why we want you to be able to recognize if this is happening to you, recognize that you would benefit from coming out and seeing one of us to do your physical exam and to tell us what's going on so we can give you some advice and tips and recommendations. So we usually schedule you with an annual physical at least once a year. Good news, your insurance will cover that. Your annual physical should be covered with no copay. And at your physical, we do certain screenings. So everybody gets a skin cancer check. We also do a depression screen, a high blood pressure screen. Everybody gets a colonoscopy consult or Cologuard if you'd like. We do your vision, and then we do certain labs, check for diabetes and cholesterol. And then we do break down by gender, So for our females, we do recommend your cervical cancer and your HPV screening. They start at 21, and they go all the way up to the age of 65. And then we can talk about if you want to continue them. And they can also be earlier too if you're having any symptoms or concerns in that area. And your family medicine physician can go over that with you. You don't necessarily need to jump to a GYN with any symptoms at first. Your next one for your females will be your mammograms. I do prefer mammograms to be every year, regardless of age. We start at 40, but if you're at high risk for breast cancer, we can start as early as 30 or 35. So please see your physician and decide what your risk factors are to decide when to start. Same thing with colon cancer. If you have a family history, we actually start earlier than 45. So please do reach out to them. Then those are some statistics about how many women are diagnosed with breast cancer and how many deaths, unfortunately, occur each year. And then about 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. It does unfortunately affect your family members too if you are diagnosed. So I do recommend please getting your mammograms done every year. And then for the men, you do get a prostate level check, and you can get an exam as well if you're having symptoms. You start at around the age of 50, and then we can continue up until about 74-ish or later if you and your physician decide to. And we can check that PSA by blood work, and it's done once a year unless you're having symptoms. If you're having frequency, urgency, we do recommend you come on in and we can retest you earlier. And then one thing too that we do, it's called an exercise vital sign. We go over how active you are, what your goals are. You don't necessarily need to do exercise to lose weight or like CrossFit. We can go over exercises to help you get to the parking lot easier, get up the stairs easier. So we do something called an exercise prescription to go over what are you trying to achieve, what your limitations are if it's arthritis, and what type of exercises would work for you. I do like this one best for mental health because as we move around and feel better moving around, it does help how we feel about ourselves. So I do recommend you guys talking about your physicians and just letting them know what your goals are. And that way we can come up with what works for you. And then so as we feel better about our bodies and know that I don't have any risk for breast cancer, my pap smear was good, my PSA levels are good, then we would feel better about ourselves and know that we are in good physical health to take care of our family and friends, and that also helps our mental health as well. And we do a depression screen at almost every visit and in every physical. So that would be a good time for us to talk about what's bothering you and ways to help you as well. I do recommend everybody try and get at least 6 to 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep and drink plenty of water. And also wear your sunscreen. Do not forget your sunscreen. Any questions from anybody? I went over a little fast so I can backtrack. Yes, sir. Yeah. So your HDL or your good cholesterol, that will come from exercise, good fiber, and good fatty foods. So for the fatty foods, I like avocados, nuts, some of the fishes, so salmon, tuna, and mackerel, they're good fatty. And then exercise. Do a little bit of exercise too, maybe a little bit of muscle building exercises, so like a little 5-pound weight, that usually brings it up. You can also do omega red fish oils if you're not a fan of fish. You can just take the supplements too. Any other? Yes, sir? So you would come in early, let's say you're 21. You would be checked in with us. We would have you in our system, and then we can start going over your risk. At the age of 21 or 18, we'll go over your family history. go over your risk factors, and also help you prevent certain diseases. So you'll get your blood pressure checked, and if it's slightly high, we'll go over ways to how you can prevent it from becoming full-on hypertension. And all your cancer screenings as well, we'll go over when should we start them, and also check in with you at least once a year to make sure you're physically doing well and your symptoms as well, to see if we need to do something earlier. Yes, ma'am? Unfortunately, at my clinic currently, we are not doing ADHD management, but we can place a referral out to a psychiatrist who can. Oh, yes, ma'am. So non-medication, yeah, so I can't speak on that, sorry. So for that, we would want you to kind of stick to a routine. So you follow a routine every single day. And then we do recommend for you making sure you get uninterrupted sleep. Try and get at least 6 hours continuously so your body and mind's rested. And then also exercise for you too, to get the good endorphins up in your body to help you focus. You're very welcome. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So sugar-wise, I would, just from like a general standpoint, I prefer if you do natural sugars in your diet, so more of your fruits and your vegetables. Try to stay away from artificial sweeteners. So try to stay away from aspartame. If you're gonna use sugar, very little. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. You can. I would definitely recommend getting involved in volunteering. When your loved ones are around you, you have those good hormones. You feel good about yourself, and sometimes when we indulge, we kind of trick our body into making those hormones. Quick sidetrack. I want you to do grapes and berries. Try to stick to your grapes and berries for your natural fruit sugars. They kind of sustain you, and see if that helps with that sugar craving. And then to piggyback off of what she said about the dye, it's the red dye. There's been some studies about the red dye in foods. So if you want to switch to naturals, yes, sir. Yes and no. If we're gonna pour a whole bottle of honey on there, no, sir. But it is a natural sugar, so a teaspoon in your tea is okay. Yes, ma'am, sorry. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am. So you can do the omega red fish oils. If she's not already taking that, that's one thing that she can do. And then, again, up your fiber intake. As much fiber as you can tolerate stomach-wise, and exercise. Even if it's just like 15 minutes out there, a little bit of strenuous, and maybe like a fast walk or even a jog, that can help her use up the cholesterol that she's making. And be careful what she's eating since she's making her own. So I would say stay away from too many eggs. If she's doing fish, be careful. Don't overdo it on the salmon and the tuna. White fish would be a substitute for her. salmon and tuna just once a week, and then a white fish instead. More plant fibers, because it would be easier for her body to break it down. So just to tweak her diet a little bit so she's not eating it since she's making it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So unfortunately, with fatty liver, just like how the fat's going to go in our bodies, it goes to our liver too. So we would put you on a low-fat diet and try to get away as much from the fats that we eat. So not a lot of like sugars and butters and fatty animal proteins. We would push you more towards a plant-based protein, so your beans and your peas and your vegetables. You can make progress if you cut out the fat that you're eating. So I would just look at my diet. If it's high in fat, it's got to go. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Oh, for like estrogen replacement? Okay. There is an over-the-counter brand, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's a beet estrogen that you can try. Soy products would be okay too for you to try if you want to go that natural route as well. And then, again, exercise, because that does help your hormones out. But there is an over-the-counter supplement. It's a beet root. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I will. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Her question was that she has interrupted sleep about 2 to 3 times per night. But do you feel rested when you wake up? Do you feel like I am good for the day, I can go? Okay. If you feel like you're rested and you can go, yes, ma'am. If you feel like you're rested and you can go, that would be okay, because it sounds like you've tried stuff for the reason why you're waking up and it's not working. I'm sorry. But if you feel like you're good to go, you're good for the day, then I would say for now, we won't mess with it. Okay? You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Her question was about osteoporosis and natural ways to improve your bone density. Again, exercise. We actually want you to do weight-bearing exercises, so a little bit like a 5-pound weight here and there. And then also calcium and vitamin D are your best friends. If you can get your calcium and vitamin D in, you could do the supplement, the calcitrol, or if you want to do natural vitamin D, it's in things like mushrooms and salmon. And then your high calcium foods would be like your dairy, but not too much dairy because then it upsets your stomach. But yes, ma'am, calcium and vitamin D and weight-bearing exercises for you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So for that, just like any supplement, her question was too much of supplements. We would, when you see your doctor, you would talk about your symptoms. Am I having too many acid reflux symptoms? Maybe is my stool looking a bit darker? And then a big thing would be your blood work. Make sure your liver function and your kidney functions are doing okay. If everything is nice and even, we wouldn't back off. But if we start noticing symptoms or signs in your labs, we would start backing off. Yes, ma'am. And it would be for any supplement. We would monitor those things. Um, I think it's like a patient thing. Some people say it does, and some people say it doesn't. I don't have like good proof behind it. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The question was about supplements and limiting them. Some supplements are harmful. Be careful where you're buying it from. Some of these supplements on the market, they've not been researched. They've not been FDA approved. I have no idea what the facility that they make it in looks like. So be careful where you're getting your supplements from. Always make sure that there's been some sort of inspection of the facility that made them. And yes, there is such a thing as too much. Again, we would watch your symptoms in your labs. Things that would worry me if you're taking like the mega vitamins that have a lot of vitamin A and vitamin E, because that can lead to bruising on your body. So I tell my patients not to overdose on the mega vitamins. And even vitamin D. I do want you to limit don't take the 10,000 units, because too much vitamin D can also cause a problem. So I stick around 1,000 units. And then there's a bunch of over-the-counter herbs and supplements that I just don't have research for to know if it's good or if it's going to affect your body. So I would be careful and also try to pick more natural supplements than man-made. So I personally try to pick more stuff that's coming from the environment and not ones that they make in the labs. Fruits and vegetables, and like if we're doing iron and zinc and stuff, the vitamin that I use, I try to make sure it's coming from a natural, like, mineral source from the ground and not something they made into a lab. Any other questions, concerns? Oh, yes, ma'am. Mhm. Yes, ma'am. You would have to replace all the stuff that she lost with her gallbladder. There is an over-the-counter supplement from Mary Ruth. That's the brand name. And it's basically a replacement for everything she lost to help with the digestion and, unfortunately, the diarrhea. Yes, ma'am. Mary Ruth. If you go to the website that sells it, it will specifically say like gallbladder replacement. And there's a few other brands that you can look at too that would replace what we lost when they take our gallbladders out. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question was about mammograms and the unfortunate, painful process of doing them. No, I don't have an alternative at this time, but there is a 3D module that's supposed to be better and slightly less painful. I would recommend prepping for a mammogram. If you know it's going to be tender, you are allowed to take some ibuprofen if you want to go in, if you can, or some Tylenol if you can, if you're allowed to, based on your health history. But sorry, no alternatives at this time. I'm sorry. So unfortunately, a PET scan will only be ordered if we think you have an active disease process going on, because it's radiation throughout the whole body. You can maybe get away with doing an ultrasound if you've got like a denser breast. The mammograms don't pick up, but they won't recommend the full-on PET scan. It's too much radiation, and I don't think insurances will let you get it. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. So the question was about blood pressures. All right, so for blood pressures, you gotta hydrate. Make sure you're getting your water, you're urinating yellow to clear. Caffeine, you gotta limit your caffeine, 1 to 2 cups. Not a fan of energy drinks, even if they're like the natural, because they drive your blood pressures up. Salt is not your friend. Sadly, sodium will drive a blood pressure up, so try to stay 2 grams or less per day. I do like Mrs. Dash. You can substitute that whenever you're cooking. And then also, again, it comes back to how well are we sleeping, and then some exercise too, because when we lose 10 pounds, your blood pressure actually will drop down. Okay. If it's, yeah. You don't add extra, perfect. If you're doing takeout or frozen meals or pre-prepared meals, do be careful when you go to the grocery store, start reading the labels. And if something's like 20% of more of your daily sodium requirement, that's a no-go because it's too much. And then for the sleep, you can talk to whoever your provider is to see if there's something to help you. I also like magnesium before bed, magnesium glutamate, to see if that can help you relax and sleep. Yes, ma'am. Got it. So for weight loss, if we're worried about fat percentage in our body, we would need you to up your walking to cardiac exercises. So something that gets your heart rate up to the 150s. And we got to keep you there for about 15 minutes. And that's when we start burning our excess body fat. So, but it doesn't have to be like CrossFit. You are more than welcome to do a treadmill on an incline, because that puts a little bit more pressure and gets your heart rate up. You can do a bike, a stationary bike, and I just up the resistance to maybe 30. I find that 30%, I usually see a heart rate increase to the 150s, and just try and get it to 15 minutes per day, and you'll start burning your body fat with cardiac exercises. Yes, ma'am. Good. So I would recommend going to one of those running stores where the like professional runners go to. Have them watch how you walk and get yourself shoes that are custom to how you're walking to help support your arch, especially if you've got a flat foot. Have you done the water bottle trick where you freeze the water bottle and roll your feet over it? I recommend that. Freeze a water bottle, and at the end of every day, your frozen water bottle on the floor, and then you roll your foot so you're massaging those tendons out. You can also use a tennis ball and just roll it out. And then also do the alphabet with your feet. So use your feet to like do the alphabet to keep those tendons and ligaments nice and exercised and massaged out. If it's super duper bad, I do recommend a little bit of ibuprofen, just a very little bit, not for very long, 400, just to take that inflammation off of it. But the thing that I found that worked the best is actually better shoes. So a running store, they'll watch you go, and they'll give you recommendations on which shoes would work for you. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it is. Yes, ma'am. I haven't found any like herbal teas. The question was about herbal teas and blood pressure. I haven't found any that has good research to say, yes, this will bring your blood pressure down completely. Personally, I do more of a green tea because I don't like too much of the dark teas. That leads to kidney stones. But I find that green tea, it's good, it's hydrating, just has the right amount of caffeine, and sometimes it can help your metabolism. There's some people who like the ginger tea, and they say it works for the blood pressure, but I just don't have good data to say it will drop it. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yeah. No, ma'am. Okay.
So there are things, and then I take a blend with different teas that help, but it's not significant. That's probably why you say it's not going to be significant. But when I take and see with all these different herbs and that helps with heart and everything,
Yes, ma'am.
it also helps. So I take a number of things, and right now, by the grace of God, is up, and even with the medication, it wasn't working, and I've been doing these things,
Good.
it's going down.
Very good.
So I'm going to see my doctor next week.
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
A lot of you have to do exercise, even weight strength can help.
Yes, ma'am.
Help the blood flow. And the stress is the biggest, my biggest problem. Because a lot of what's going on now. Do you have to see what's going on with my stress? Sometimes you don't even know it's stress.
That is true. Yes, ma'am.
My wife is going on, and the Lord is good,
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm very happy with those workouts. But I am taking the medication because it was happening.
Yes, ma'am. Just so everybody heard her, I'm not sure if you heard her, she is taking garlic supplements and a mixture of teas and passion fruit seeds. Okay. So it sounds like you're doing anti-inflammatory foods. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so an anti-inflammatory diet is actually very good too. It will take you your fruits and your vegetables that have good antioxidants to help raise your inflammation in your body too. It's a quick Google search, or if you see me in clinic, I do have a handout for it about how to do an anti-inflammatory diet. Yes, ma'am. I found a lot of good results with actually something called a compounded cream that will have your gabapentin and some other medicines that you rub directly if it's your legs or your feet. It's a special cream that your physician will have to order and send to a pharmacy that can mix all the medicines together. But I find better results with that for the neuropathy. Also, upping your vitamin B intake as well, and then an anti-inflammatory diet to help take away any inflammation on the nerves as well. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Yeah, for neuropathy, if you're having troubles with the pills, the Lyrica, Cymbalta, and gabapentin not helping you, ask your physician for if they can do a compounded cream that has the medicines, but it's a cream. So it's gonna go right where you need it to go and not throughout your body. And then also B12 is a good supplement to use for that. You can get it from your foods as well. A lot of your beans and peas will have the B12. Nutritional yeast is very good in B12 if you want to do that as well. And then an anti-inflammatory diet as well, because that will help take away any inflammation from the nerves.
I have a microphone. Is it on? I have a microphone so I can pass it around. If you have a question, other people can hear you better.
About the green tea, is that is there a certain brand or is it?
I am not loyal to any brands, no sir.
Okay.
Raise your hand so I can see if you have a question. I can get the microphone to you.
What do you recommend for someone who has COPD?
So for COPD, if we're a smoker, that's gotta go.
No, someone who's stopped smoking for like over, 20 years?
Yes, ma'am. So for my COPD patients, unfortunately, natural-wise to reverse the inflammation in the lungs, I don't have a good fix for it. Like if you already stopped smoking, that's awesome. You can prevent further damage. If you're young with COPD, that's something that needs to be looked into to see why you have COPD, if you've been exposed to some chemical or maybe even asbestos when you were younger. So that I would then send you to a pulmonologist to really check and see why you're a young person who's not smoking with COPD to see if there's something else going on. Oh, and it wasn't on my slides, but lung cancer screening. That would be something I'd recommend as well if you were a former smoker.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yes, and one more thing about COPD, if it's super, super bad, protein is your best friend because you're working a bit harder to breathe. So high protein foods, preferably from plants.
And I also heard a lot of greens, like green apples, green
Yes, ma'am.
grapes.
You want to bulk up on plant-based foods because it's easier for you to digest, and more protein foods. And apples do have protein in them, so because you need more calories when you're breathing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Raise your hand, please.
So is pulmonary fibrosis a form of COPD?
It's its own separate lung problem, but you will have very, very similar symptoms to COPD. Unfortunately, pulmonary fibrosis is when the whole thing's just stiff. So, but we would treat it very similar to a COPD patient. And it would be the same thing too. I'd tell you to up your protein because I want you to have enough reserves if you're having a flare-up.
Yeah, my husband has it, and that's why I was wondering.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else with a question? There we go.
What about someone, I have a granddaughter that has had asthma since she was young. And right now her doctor said that she has a capacity of 60% her lungs. But I don't know if it's because while she's sick or, I told her, ask the doctor, it's a test you now. And she has some scarring also. She said she has some scarring. So what can be done for that?
So for my young asthma patients,
22 now.
she's still young.
I know, but I'm saying it started when she was young.
Is it? I would recommend allergy testing because something's triggering her asthma. I had a friend who was actually seafood, and he loved seafood, so he had to stop seafood. But first of all, what's driving your asthma? And then second of all, I would recommend getting tested on your good days to see what your good day breathing is. And sadly, the scarring sounds like it's from past attacks, so we're just pretty bad. I'm sorry.
And if she gets if she has to really warm up, I mean, she really has to be bundled up well because if not, she'll
Sounds
get-
like cold's a trigger for her.
yeah. So that's a trigger for her.
Yeah, if she doesn't have a pulmonologist, I would get one just
Yeah, I
to
think
get
she
tested.
does. And she is an athlete. I mean, she swims and she does everything, but she still has that condition.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes you might get lucky and outgrow it, but it will stick with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else with a question? Raise your hand so I can get the microphone to you. Okay.
Ma'am?
Or raise a finger.
What about osteoarthritis? Anti-inflammatory diet?
I would do an anti-inflammatory diet, and you got to keep moving. Because for osteoarthritis, it's not the one that we can treat like rheumatoid. It's the one that every one of us is going to get. It's going to catch us one day. But you got to keep your joints moving because we do not want them to get stiff. And then, yes, turmeric is a good supplement for an anti-inflammatory, and your omega-red fish oils, and glucosamine. There's been some studies into glucosamine, so to help with the inflammation. Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted, I have osteoarthritis, and I can show you my hands. They don't look too pretty, they're twisted and everything. And it started when I was about maybe in my 40s. And I just keep moving, keep exercising, and I have to thank God because they haven't gotten worse. But I know that they can still get a little better if I go on that diet.
The anti-inflammatory. I do like it,
Yeah,
yes,
because
ma'am.
I can do everything, but if I want to open a water bottle, I have to hold something, and I keep going, and I keep exercising and do weight bearing and different things, and
Yes,
I
ma'am.
thank God that I can still use my hands. But you look at them, and they're not very pretty.
Any other concerns or questions? Yes, ma'am. We currently have Dr. Rogers' group in the area. If you don't mind driving, I have a few more in the Altamont, Apopka area if you don't mind driving. And we do have one also in an office in DeLand that I usually use too. So it just depends how far you're willing to drive. Yeah, you can go online. You can go on the website, and when you do find a physician, you would filter it out and say you want OBGYN. In this area, we do use Dr. Rogers, so. You're welcome. Any other concerns? Yeah, yes, ma'am. Okay, so you're looking. Yeah, you're looking for a GYN. Yes, ma'am. I know Dr. Rogers does do some OB, but if you're specifically looking for a GYN, just GYN stuff, her name's Dr. Wendy. I'm blanking on her last name too. She's also in the area. I do believe she is affiliated with Advent because I've seen her. She just does GYN. She doesn't do any OB stuff. You're welcome.
Anyone else with some more questions? This is an awesome opportunity. Thank you for fielding so many questions.
You're welcome.
And it's kind of good to hear that some of us, maybe as we look around the room, oh, that person's dealing with the same struggle that I'm dealing with. I've got plantar fasciitis too. So someone mentioned that. I think Diana mentioned that. So I'm going to go talk to her later. We're going to compare notes because there's other things that you recommended and other things that could be done that we can help each other as we understand and learn more about what we're struggling with. Any more opportunities for questions? I think we're questioned out.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that leaves about a 15 or 20-minute break between our next presentation at 11:30, which is me. I hope you'll come back because I don't want to talk to an empty room. I came here with every intention to look sharp, a very professional presenter with my suit and tie. Would you believe I forgot to pack my shoes? And I'm not sure how serious you'll take me if I wear a suit and tie but have these tennis shoes on. So I may just stay in this outfit if that's okay with you. But I hope you come back. You got time for a break. Maybe go check out our exhibits in the fellowship hall. Again, there's the Taste and See plant-powered table where you can taste some good food, maybe find some recipes that you like. And after my presentation is over, we'll have about an hour break before the 1:30 presentation. And so if you can, we encourage you again to donate blood at our blood mobile. I know we've had at least one donation already, maybe hopefully more. I'm going to check in this break and find out how close we are to meeting our goal of 10 donations by the end of this event. But why don't you go ahead, stretch, stand up, get your blood flowing, use the restroom, and check out our fellowship hall exhibits, and be back here at 11:30 together. If you have more questions or you want to ask privately, I'm sure Dr. Bacchus will speak with you over here on the side. Yes?